Again, this is another really quick one with the old root motion, but so we go over to this one, which is the one that I've just exported, and then this is set to humanoid now. We go to the rig, we go to the configure panel here, and we look and check to see hips is the pelvis as it should be, and then you've got spine, 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 clavicle, blah blah blah. These are all set up correctly. Like the head is the head, the neck is the neck, and the pelvis is the pelvis. It's not the root bone, right? It's different to the thingy, and it's not. Let's just double check before I say that. It's not stripping out any bones. It knows that there's a root bone in there. We know this because let's say we actually drag it into the scene here for a laugh, just to have a look. Look, go to the F7. Ta-da! Root bone's still there, right? So that's all good. And then when we look in the Unity visualization here, preview, go to the animation tab, right? This is on, again, humanoid. Go to the animation tab, we look here and we scrub the timeline. The visualization of this circle here is now driving the character forward because that visualization there, that circle is the root bone. That's what it's showing us. Now, what benefit does this bring us inside Unity? If we click this, bake into pose, yeah, this is how you create an in-place animation. Oh, amazing. That is the root bone. We've told it to bake the root. Look, hold over this and we'll have a look. What does this say? Enable to make the horizontal root motion be baked into the movement of the bones. Disable to make horizontal root motion be stored as root motion. So, do you get that? That's discarding that bone, that root bone or whatever, and that's baking it based upon the at start original position, and it keeps it there. I mean, and because I haven't baked the rotation, it's still wiggling about because it blah blah blah. Like this is inconsequential now what I'm talking about, but this for your usage, this is not what you need to pay attention to because these settings here are for, say, I handed you back a character who was walking through the world, who had been animated correctly like this character, he had root motion, and you decided, actually, I don't want this character to use root motion. I want to drive his movement via script or code, and I want to code the character to move, but I want the animation to stay in place in the world. So you would tick these, right? And again, you could use this as well. And if you use this and you select this and you click apply, these options will disappear because it will go, there's a root bone. Again, this part here, this is due to the fact, like I said previously, the root bone exported from Character Creator is oriented wrong compared to what Blender expects. Fucking Blender. Compared to what Unity expects and wants. Unity wants a root bone that is pointing up the way, not whatever the fuck backwards. There, see? So like if you were to rotate this, yeah, let's do it now here in Blender. If we rotate this like that, that's why it ends up like that in Unity, because that's what it expects. That's what it wants from a root bone. It wants a bone pointing up the way in the world with the Y pointing up. Why do we want the Y pointing up? Because unlike Blender here with the Z pointing up, in Unity, if we go into the scene view, we see Y is up, right? It wants Y up. And so that's why that is like that. And that's why you don't use that when you're doing this sort of thing, because you don't give, like, people don't care about, they don't want this, they just want the animation to look correct. And so in order for the correct looking animation with a moving root bone and moving working root motion, this is correct and working, and this is all fine and it all works fine now, unless there is a problem. So if you see a problem, you let me know what that problem is and I will fix it. But this is correct and what you want in your animations. And like, I hate to say it, like, this is going to sound arrogant, but just because other people don't have it like this does not mean that those people are correct. Those people are fucking wrong, right? the root bone is called the root bone for a reason, and root motion is called root motion for a reason. And like I said, it's not a coincidence that those things are both have the word root in them, because they're connected and they use the same things that are connected together. The root bone is the thing that drives the root motion. And again, see, root transform, root transform. This is all talking about the root bone. So, and right, if you check the Unity documentation, it will even tell you this on the Unity documentation on the skeleton page, where it talks about the differences between generic and humanoid animation, and it will say how that strip bones will discard the root bone, and it will treat the pelvis bone here as the root bone if you were to do it that way, like, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a way to do it, but that's not the way. That's the only people that do that are Unity, because this avatar system is Unity's system. But every other piece of animation software like Maya, 3D Studio Max, Blender, Soft Image XSI, that's one's old, but anything industry standard that all different game development studios and all other games, they do it the industry standard way, which is you don't have an avatar mask. An avatar mask is a Unity specific thing. This avatar mask system here with this and all the muscles and stuff, this is all Unity specific. It's very, very much a Unity thing. And so like this is what Unity is using under the hood for the humanoid thing when when it discards, when you use, if you were to strip the bones, blah 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 blah. But I'm getting off topic now. This is what Unity uses under the hood, and it uses the avatar mask system. And this here again, this is another, like, oh fuck, I've opened the wrong thing. I want to open this. This is read only, right? Because right now you're looking at the FBX keys. Or no, because I've switched this over to humanoid, you are now looking at this converted into the animator dot. Yeah, so animator dot left hand twist or whatever, or where was one? There you go, twist in, right? That's a Unity thing, and only Unity does this. These keys here are converted, and also they're converted and they've been optimized using this setting here, which again, this is another terrible thing that people won't tell you this, right? But this is a terrible thing. This will fuck you over. This will make animations look bad and stuff. But you do have to, I mean, you might not want it because you're doing it for VR, so you need to see, you want stuff to look good, right? And you want things to look how they're animated. But this will make your animations look terrible if you have this on, and you get too close to them, you'll see foot jittering and that sort of thing. But it's a compromise. It's like it says there, the smaller value used, the higher precision you get. But also, what it doesn't say there is the smaller value you use, or if you turn it off, you'll get higher precision, but the animation files themselves will be much bigger in file size, and they'll cost more performance to animate a character with that. It will look better, but it's a trade-off. It's like how good you want it to look versus how much performance do you have to spare. And so, yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there talking about this part here, the animation compression. But basically, and again, to go back, if I switch this back to generic, you will see that if we open this up, it will still be read-only, but instead of having lots of animator dot, we are now looking, still read-only, mind you, because you can't edit this because this is embedded within the FBX file, right? It's now, all the names have changed though, right? And it's now showing you the bones as they are named themselves, and it's saying tracks. This is exactly what I see in Blender, and it's laid out exactly as I see it in Blender, because Unity isn't fucking with it at all. It's just showing you exactly as it is. But if you were to tick these options, for example, it will start fucking with it. So let's just do that for a laugh. We'll start stripping out modes, we'll start optimizing game objects, and then what has Unity done? Okay, it can't get rid of the root because the children of the root rely on that's position, and I've animated it now onto the root bone that's moving through world space. But previously, when it was animated on the pelvis, Unity would have culled this out completely. This wouldn't be here, and you just have the pelvis, I suspect. Yeah, and I mean, you could probably see that on other files if you were to open it up. And again, I don't know if you're aware of this, but for many animations, you can click here on this scene. You know, I mean, on your other ones, it's probably named something else. I know on these ones it says like temp motion, sorry. Pardon me, but yeah, if you wanted to edit this, bearing in mind this is a generic one right now, you click on that and you go Control D. Give it a second, and then it like detaches it from the FBX file, and so now you can double click this and it's no longer read only. So now you can go in here, and I mean, you probably know this because you do a lot of stuff inside Unity, but this allows you to delete keys and edit keys to an existing animation, and you know, fuck with the curves or whatever you want to do to animate stuff in Unity. But mate, you shouldn't have to do any of this. As far as I understand it, you want me to animate it, and that's fine. And I will totally fix it to clean up all of the pelvis leany backy stuff. I mean, that was really not what this test was about. This test was simply to check that when we switch this over to Humanoid, and we go to the animation, we preview it, and we look, this root motion, this root bone here is moving correctly, whereas yeah, this one, no root motion at all. It's not even moving. That's bad. And like, sadly I can't find any of the ones where you sent it to me and it has oh, there you go, this one's good. Oh, that one does have root motion. But I think again, the problem with these ones is that it's on the pelvis, and the pelvis is being treated as the root. I just want to check this now. Yeah. Is that right? Or is there no... Again, like, I'm getting into the minutia now of it. Like, it's being stored as root transform, but again, this shouldn't matter, like, as to what track it's being stored on, so long as it works. The entire point of this was so that I can separate it in Blender and animate the hips separately, and they will move, and you'll have root motion, and you can discard that or not discard it using these settings here if you wanted to do that. But I mean, again, you shouldn't have to mess with any of this. You should just get the animation back and go, hey, that looks good, hopefully, once I've actually tweaked it. And yeah, tweak the feet. But I mean, you'll see it's a very simple process now that I've managed to separate out the root motion and put it on the root bone and separated it from the hip bone. And that is, again, like sometimes I'm uncertain about what I'm doing, but that, I know that for a fucking fact. I would bet £1,000 on that. And I'd take any of these other animators that you've hired or whatever, and they tell you, oh, blah blah blah, you shouldn't have the root, but fucking they're wrong. They're wrong. It's called the root bone for a reason, and it's connected to root motion. And I don't know how I can't overstate that. Like, the clue is in the name, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's that, and I guess I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse now with this rant. But yeah, the root bone is for root motion, and again, if you wanted to have a character jumping on the spot, the root bone wouldn't move at all. The root bone would stay where it is. You would just have the hips jumping up and down, unless you wanted the entire character's game object to jump up to a ledge somewhere and you want to move the whole character, right? Then you would move the root bone up to the final position in the world relative to the starting position that you wanted him to end up at, because that's what the root bone is for. The root bone is for moving the entire character. The hip bone you would move slightly to give some sway or character. You know, like it's a nice lady and she's moving her hips around from side to side. You'd have that on the hip bone. But as she's walking forward through the world, that would be driven by the root bone. And again, it might not be a big deal inside Unity, but when you're animating inside Blender, the ability to turn off and on the root track and just animate, let's show you over here in Blender, the ability to sort of go in here and go, let me push that down to the NLA, or don't be, okay, because I haven't keyed it. So let me cancel this out because I just want to show you this. See, right now I've turned off the pelvis bone, but let me grab the root bone. Right now he moves through the world space because he has them turned on, and he travels through the world because he's being driven by the root bone, right? But if I turn these off, it's the same as if I was to disable the root bone track here in Blender, and so it allows for a very easy adjustment and like creating cyclic walk cycles, you know, where you have a walk cycle that is only 1 second long, but you want it to repeat as the character moves through the world and he goes on a nice 20-minute walk, right? You don't want to animate 20 minutes of footsteps. You just animate one set of footsteps for 30 frames, and you make sure that the first frame and the end frame both end up in the same position, so it loops seamlessly. And in order to do that, in order to animate that in Blender seamlessly with tracks or whatever, you would turn off and on the root bone or whatever. I mean, you could do it using NLA tracks here, but that's neither here nor there. It's fine. You want basically you want the root motion on the root bone is what I'm trying to sell you on here, and that is correct as far as I'm concerned. And you know, a million other dare I say it, professional animators would tell you the same, and people who say otherwise, they're fucking wrong. And I'm done. All right, sorry to rant. There you go.